Well, hello and welcome to this session of ExecuNet Master Class. I'm your host, as always, Tony Vlahos, and my guests this hour are Connection Culture Group partners Michael and Katie Stallard. With the majority of our day spent at work, the cost of not connecting with those around us poses significant threats to both our personal health and organizational performance. Today, Katie and Mike will address this topic in depth and share approaches you can implement to develop a culture of connection in your workplace and in your home. Really important stuff and part of our daily commitment here at ExecuNet to connect you with trusted advisors like Mike and Katie who can help you create the transformative results you want in your career, the world of work, and in your everyday life.
The way we like to boil it down when you look at all the research is that connection should really be thought of as a superpower. And this uh, description of it came from Matthew Lieberman. He is a neuroscientist, a social neuroscientist at UCLA. And Dr. Lieberman says that connection makes us smarter, happier, and more productive. You know, who doesn't want that, right? We all need that. But in addition to that, it also makes us more resilient to stress. It engages what's called the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, and it just makes us more resilient to cope with stressors in our life. It helps protect us from illness. It also heals damage that stress does to the ends of our chromosomes. And many of you in the audience may know about, there's a great book written just a couple years ago based on a Nobel Prize that was awarded to the researchers. It's called telomerase. It's an enzyme that connection and other activities releases that helps protect our chromosomes from damage that stress does, that kind of unwinds the ends, what are called telomeres of chromosomes. And and then you can see here what I quoted earlier, just that connection is associated with a 50% reduced risk of early death. Now, the opposite of connection, or I should say the lack of connection, we all need connection to thrive. And so if we have those supportive relationships, we're more likely to thrive. If we are going without that connection, then we will struggle because disconnection is a super stressor. I'm not going to go through all these. Let me just put them on the screen, but you can see all these negative outcomes that it affects our clarity of thinking. It affects our sleep. It makes us less likely to be self-controlled, so we're more likely to overeat or do other things that are coping mechanisms we don't feel well when we're in a state of chronic stress response. And basically what's happening here is when the body is at a state of balance called homeostasis, then blood, glucose, and oxygen are being circulated to all the body's systems at levels that are required to maintain good health. But if we feel threatened, if we feel stressed, and we don't have the supportive relationships to calm our nervous system, then we'll go into a state of stress response. And then blood, glucose, and oxygen is over allocated to the fight or flight systems, which would include the heart, the lungs, the big muscles, and it's under allocated to certain bodily systems, including the hippocampus in the brain, the digestive system, the immune system, and the reproductive system. So those systems are being shortchanged the blood, glucose, and oxygen they need to be healthy. Now, if it's an acute stressor, which just means a short-term stressor, like perhaps you're being, someone is threatening your life, they want your money, then, going to stress response is good. But what we're finding, because it may help you survive. However, if we're in a state of chronic stress response because we don't feel safe, we're working in a workplace where we don't really have people who have our backs and we're under stress, that's not good. That puts us in a state of chronic stress where these certain bodily systems are being under resourced, which means we won't feel well. And when we don't feel well, we start looking for ways to cope. And as Katie pointed out earlier, many of these are they're addictive. And research shows, Steve Sussman, who's a professor at USC, did research back in 2011. It's the most current research available that we found. And he concluded that 47% of Americans have one or more addictions. And that also, I should point out, that have negative consequences for our health. So connection is extremely important to help us not only survive or to thrive in life, but to survive as well. It affects our life expectancy. So we want to ask you over the next 3 years, What do you expect in your life? Do you expect stress will rise, or will it roughly stay the same, or do you expect it will decline? So if we could do a poll here, Tony, let's see what people expect. I'm curious to see how they feel about their future.
Okay, the polls are open, everyone. Just a few seconds longer.
Okay.
And everyone, please keep your questions coming. I am seeing a few in the chat box, and thank you for those. And I'll save them till the end of Michael and Katie's formal talk, and then we'll leap right into them. So thank you.